Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Discover how to find product market fit for your SaaS company in this episode with Zach Stuckey. He is a thought leader in SaaS growth strategies, and he is an experienced growth strategist with an obsession with helping SaaS startups with traction nail product market fit and drive adoption with strategies that create sticky products and cut churn. He has an MBA in entrepreneurship from Arizona State University, which consistently ranks number one for innovation. He has helped companies hit 40% over year growth rates, increase per customer revenues, and profitability. His company, Ignition Point Strategies, will help you lock in fit and drive market adoption faster with data-driven insights and customer-centric strategies. So, first question is, what's the secret to your success?
I don't think I know the answer to that one quite yet. Still working on it. But so far, the thing that's helped the most is honestly not being afraid to fail. I think that when we let fear of failure get in the way, we don't take action. So being okay with failing and being willing to take action is something that's made a huge difference for me.
Thank you. What's your blueprint to becoming an awakened titan? And how did that lead on to discovering that finding product market fit is the key thing that SaaS companies should focus on in order to succeed?
I think for me, I've always kind of felt like I have this drive in me to be successful and to do great things. What Teddy Roosevelt might say is to dare mightily. So I've always kind of had that drive in me. And, one time that really stood out to me, I remember I was in a play in high school and there was this song that one of the people was singing and it felt like it was speaking directly to me, all about how you can be astonishing. And I think that was really a big sort of awakening moment for me. But honestly, the thing that led me to product market fit and really growth strategy as a whole is I have a friend. He looked at me one day and he says, "Zach, you're an alien. You know that, right?" And I'm like, "Thank you." Like, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. And he says, No, it's really good because you see the world in a different way. You don't necessarily see the world as it is, although you're good at that. You see the components of the world as it is and what you can create with that. So you're highly analytical and highly intuitive. And it means that you can really go out and help a lot of people. And that's sort of when I realized, I have this love for entrepreneurship. I have experience doing this strategy, and it led me to this product market fit and to understanding customers and how that interaction between your customer and your product really creates that fit.
Thank you. I don't think SaaS companies and their founders sit at night thinking about, oh my God, I should have this product market fit. I don't think they think about that. So until they really have to think about that. So I'm wondering, what is product market fit and how can we leverage this as a business growth strategy in order to attract the right clients and to lead to exponential business growth in the same way that you have managed to do for so many companies?
So I think that while they may not necessarily be thinking, I need to find product market fit, they're using different words at different stages in their life cycle, right? So if they're a very early stage company, what we would say is they're going from 0 to 1. If they're going from 0 to 1, they're often not looking for what they would say is product market fit. Rather, they're looking for something called traction or early adoption, right? Which is different than product market fit. Now, there is language around product market fit and it's becoming more common, but a lot of times they're using that traction word. But the important part to realize is that they're early adopters these people that, they've come on board very early with the product as you've worked out all the kinks are not going to be your more widespread adopters. So as you're, crawling out of sort of this giant chasm of early adoption and trying to get this more widespread adoption, you've got to get really, really clear on who your customers are and use that to be able to basically inform how you take your product from here and really let your customer take ownership of the product more than you do. So the biggest question that these businesses should be asking, but often are not, is who is my customer? Because the early adopter is not going to be the widespread adopter, because early adopters are willing to put up with a lot that the widespread adopter just would not.
Thank you. What are the steps for entrepreneurs that have a SaaS company? What blueprints should entrepreneurs that have a SaaS company follow in order to successfully find product market fit?
Blueprint. So if they've gone 0 to 1, right? Meaning they have some form of a product that they've created and they have people paying for it, they need to get really deep into who their ideal customer is. Now, a lot of times the way that works is they're going to throw a dart against a dartboard with a bunch of pictures on it and say, Steve, I like working with Steve. Steve's a pretty good guy. Steve's going to be my target customer. That's not the way this works, guys. It can't be the way this works. You have to get deep into the data of your organization and understand at a unit economics based level, like who your most profitable customers are, because that's going to inform the persona that you create. You're going to direct your sales and marketing team in that direction. You're going to make sure that your operations team is building that. And there's more to it than that, because particularly in SaaS, you really don't have a customer. There's no such thing as a singular customer, but what you do have is a customer ecosystem with 3 distinct roles: payers, deciders, and users. Payers write the checks, deciders choose to hire you, and users use your stuff. Now, this is important, because if your sales and marketing teams don't know who the decider is, you're probably pitching to the wrong people, and it's costing you a fortune. It really is. So you've got to get clear on who those people are. Then you need to understand, why are they hiring you? Why are they paying for your product or service? What is the outcome they're trying to create? What motivated them circumstantially or based off of the context of their life to say, yes, that I want your product or service? And that takes a lot of deep research, talking with these people. You can't just speculate about it, because that's throwing spaghetti against the wall and waiting to see what sticks. It's incredibly inefficient. And when you take that deep understanding of who your ideal customer is and the knowledge that you get from talking to these people and understanding, why did they why did they hire my product or service? Why did they pay for it? Then you can begin to see how you build product market fit for a more widespread adoption. It takes a lot of iteration after that of making adjustments to your existing product to say, how do I make this better? How do I help my customers make progress better, faster, cheaper? But that is sort of, 50,000 foot view, a 3-step process or framework, I guess, that would be how you help these people find product market fit.
Thank you. How can SaaS companies find their first 100 customers?
I mean, it depends on their business model, right? If they're B2B, there's a lot of pounding the pavement. There's really no other way around that. If they're B2C, it's a lot of, honestly, digital marketing on Facebook and LinkedIn, casting with a wide net, hoping to bring in the right person. You just don't have enough data to be really targeted and use that stuff to its full effectiveness, but you do the best you can.
Thank you. Tell us about some case studies of companies you've worked with and what results you've managed to achieve for them, and why did that work so well?
So I was working with this specialized medical practice, and the model that medical has is actually very similar to technology. So I was working with this medical practice, and they'd grown to be 2 to 3 million in revenue, and then things just stopped and it got bad. Like, the owners were taking out personal loans to make payroll. Just bad. And they're like, if we don't figure this out, we're going to have to close up shop. So they bring me in and I ask them, I say, guys, who is your customer? And they look at each other and they say, well, Zach, I mean, that would be the patient. Who else would it be? And I say to them, I think you're wrong. And I think that's the problem. And they say, what do you mean? And I say, well, I want you to consider that the patient is not your customer. They're just using your services. And they're like, Zach, what are you talking about? And I said, look, you guys are specialists, right? Like the patient can't just walk in off the street. And they say, well, no, they need a note from a referring physician. And I say, right. So that's your customer. And they're like, oh yeah, Zach. And how many clinics have you run? And I'm like, listen, guys, you are maxing out credit cards to make payroll because you've got the wrong customer. So take the referring physician. Without them, you have nothing. Am I wrong? And they're like, well, no. And I said, right, that's because they're your customer. So that's what we did is we talked to the referring physician and we asked them, why are you sending us patients? And we asked the patients, what are you hoping to get from this appointment? And we used their answers to make some simple changes, but we focused sales and marketing on those referring physicians and we focused operations on the patient. And the practice grew 40% year over year for 3 years.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And tell us about another case study and how did you use your expertise in order to help them grow?
I'm working with one company right now, and what we're doing is it's very early stage, but what we're doing right now is helping them to realize that their ideal customer is not who they thought it was. So I'm working with a company right now. This company, they're pretty early stage, but they've got about 300 users on their platform. And they wanted to take this service that they created, this software platform, and expand it outside and increase their growth. And they wanted to target a certain audience. And I can't give too many details just because we're currently working with this client. They wanted to expand their audience. And so they were looking for different targets that they could focus on. And they had theorized one group of people. But the problem was that group of people was notorious for making decisions by committee and also being technological laggards. And while to this group that I'm working with, it sounds like a good idea, we were able to identify a far more effective customer, basically a payer decider hybrid that's going to help them scale the organization a lot faster because it's one person they have to talk to instead of 5, 10, get buy-in from all of them. Like all you have to do is get yes one time instead of 10. So that's another example.
Thank you. Where do you suggest SaaS companies can find clients in general?
Again, it depends on the model, right? Because in a B2C context, it depends on what you do. Let's say that I'm a meditation app, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of money doing billboards or anything like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for podcasts. I'm going to look for social media groups. I'm going to look for influencers, and I'm going to sponsor these people to, use my app and tell people about it basically. And I'm going to run ads, digital ads that target people who are users of, yoga, who are health conscious, things like that, because there's a correlation between these types of people and they're going to use my app. Now, as I get further down the path and get that first, however many customers, I will change my approach a little bit because I now have a good and a really healthy sample size that I can pull from to start talking to. I can talk to these people and understand. So why did you hire my product or service? How did you find it? And once I get more clarity on that, then I can know really how to target in my sales and marketing funnels a lot more effectively and narrowly.
Thank you. How do you know which places to look for in terms of new clients? How do you know that, for example, billboards is not a good idea versus what you just mentioned?
A couple of different things. The first one is the idea of steps. How many steps does it take for your customer to get to a point where they can say yes or take action based off of what you've said? If I am advertising an app on the freeway, it's a lot more difficult for the driver to visit the website, download the app, whatever. There's too many touch points in the way there. Whereas if I'm advertising on the Facebook app or the Instagram app or TikTok or whatever, it's a lot easier for someone to exit the app, or to just click a link on the ad that takes them to the app store and then download it from there. So it's really largely a touch point idea. In a B2B context, I'm going to be looking at who are the deciders and how do I get connected with them effectively. Now, because B2B is generally there are smaller decision pools involved, right? I'm not going to have 1 million customers in a B2B play generally. I mean, it's possible, but I'm going to be looking at where are these people hanging out and how do I get to them? How do I talk to them? How do I get my sales team connected with them? What sort of language are they using? Things like that. But again, it's largely a question of empathy and being able to think through where would my customer be and how can I get to them where they will be in the mood to say yes, or in a mindset of doing business.
Thank you. What's the best way to approach deciders so that you can get a yes in terms of them hiring you for your SaaS company?
So people hate being sold to. People hate being objectified, right? Like it's something that people hate because we all are given this gift of agency and the ability to choose for ourselves. And when people sort of step all over that, it deeply offends us. So for me, the best way to show or to get to a yes is, one, not to care about the outcome. Two, to position yourself as an ally with these companies, which is the truth, right? Like you're only talking to them because they may have a problem and you may be able to solve that problem. If you can't solve that problem, if they feel you can't help right now, that's fine. No problem, right? But I hope you find the solutions that you need. Maybe I'll be able to connect you with someone who can solve the problem as you see it, right? Versus how I see it. But at the end of the day, it's about getting those barriers down in an authentic way that helps them see that you're there to help them, not there to objectify them, use them, get something from them. That's what the best salespeople do. And, the last part is they've got to decide for themselves. You can't decide for them that they need your product or service. They have to see. One of my I call him my dashboard saint. I think the guy was absolutely brilliant, is a Harvard professor named Clayton Christensen. And he said that a question is a hole in the brain for an answer to slot in. If there's no hole in the brain, then there's no place for the answer to slot in, which means that even though you have a solution to a problem that they may be experiencing, unless they recognize it and get that hole in their brain, the answer won't slot in. It'll just bounce off, right? So you have to make sure that they see the hole in their brain, that they see the problem. And that's probably one of the most difficult parts of sales conversations, is making sure that they see the problem and that they buy into, yes, this is a problem. It's a painful problem and I need a solution right now. And that's part of the job of sales, right? Is to show them they've got a headache, make sure that they agree they've got a headache, and then show them that it's a migraine.
Thank you. Now, imagine that I have a SaaS company that can save you millions of dollars right now. How do you make sure that you can close this kind of deal where you know that a particular company could really save millions of dollars by hiring you? And because of the caliber of that particular deal, how do you actually get in front of those people? And how do you close that kind of deal if you're an early stage startup company with, not so many contacts and perhaps not, so many like angel investors or any introduction people to kind of get you in front of those kind of super high profile people? And how do you also persuade those people that you can actually deliver on this promise that is quite a big one?
You're not going to like this answer. I wish I could give you some brilliant answer, but the simple truth is I don't know. I really don't know. I think it involves a lot of customer research, being sure that you're speaking the right language that they're going to understand. And the only way that you can do that is by the hard work of looking at them, talking to people who are like them, building that knowledge foundation, which is, one of the things that we help people do, is building this knowledge foundation of who your customer is and why they buy from you, so that you can go out and have those conversations. But without that, it's really just, let's see what the dice turn up today. And most of the time your luck is out. But yeah, I wish I could give a better, more erudite answer than that. But I don't know. If I knew the answer to that, I'd certainly be in a different place.
Thank you. How did you manage to reduce churn rates for companies you've worked with? And how can SaaS companies do it as well?
Yeah. So I think that we're looking at churn the wrong way as a SaaS industry. We're looking at churn as our product is perfect. And if someone is mad and churn out, it's because of something we did, not because of the product. And that mindset is flawed. There's an assumption there that is huge, which is our product is perfect. And if everyone used our product, they would just love it. And so we're the ones who made the mistake. That's not necessarily the case. My experience has been that it is often the product, and you have to remember that your product isn't just your app or your software. Your product is also how your customer experiences interacting with you and your team. And so the product doesn't meet an expectation for progress. And what I mean by that is, let's say that I am a towing company, right? And I need some kind of a software that's going to help me navigate my business. So it's going to help me with billing. It's going to help me with, keeping track of clients like a CRM. It's going to help me know where my trucks are, things like that. Now, part of what I am hiring that company to do is be responsive to me, especially if it's an early stage, right? I want something that's going to help me run my business. But if I reach out to you and I say, hey, your product is broken, and the only answer you can give me is, have you tried clearing the cache? That's not a satisfactory answer. And if you say, that's a good idea, I think we'll take a look at that. If you don't ever touch base with me again, I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to churn and I'm going to go back to the old solution that I was using in the past, because I can more actively build solutions to problems that I come up with. Or, the old system, while it wasn't great, at least I could adjust very quickly. Whereas if I'm using a SaaS product, I can't do that. I just can't do that. So let's say that you are a SaaS company, right? And you're a B2B model. Businesses are hiring you to create a specific outcome. And part of that outcome is, I need to run my business better. And if I reach out to you and I tell you that your product or service is not helping me run my business better, if you're not listening to what I'm saying, being accessible, responsive, and engaged, right, then I got a problem and you're not listening to me. So you are actively getting in the way of me making my business better, running my business, which means I got to fire you because I got to run my business. And that's what churn most of the time is. It's that my expectation of what I was hiring your SaaS product to do doesn't match with the outcomes that I'm getting. And so I'm going to leave because I need to make that progress. I need to create that outcome. And if you're not going to do it for me, then I'll go find someone else who can. And so that's what churn is. And most of the time we blame that on not the product, not the SaaS that we're selling, but rather we blame it on our team. And that's not fair to our team because the team's only working within the constraints that they have. So, some of the ways that you reduce churn is by understanding what's the progress my customer is trying to make right now and saying, hey, that really sucks that you're trying to run your business right now and this is getting in the way. I've sent this over to my dev team. I'm going to keep track of this and I'll just touch base with you in about, just as soon as I hear back about whether or not we can make this adjustment for you. Sometimes even doing something as simple as that can make a huge impact for retaining customers because they feel like, oh, this guy is listening to me. And they actually care about me being able to run my business and they're trying to help me get that outcome. But if you're not actively engaged in that way, they're going to churn. They're going to churn because they're not getting that outcome.
Thank you. You've also managed to grow the revenue of companies year on year. And I'm wondering, how can SaaS companies do it as well?
It really comes down to, again, do you have the right person? Are you talking to them using the right language? Are you using the right channels? And this people leave out. Can you handle the growth? Can your operations handle the growth? Because here's the truth. I could juice your sales by $1 million, but could your operations handle $1 million of extra sales? Because if it can't, then I don't want to do that, because I will end up killing your business. It's like, this is a little bit graphic, but sometimes when they'll find people who are starving from famine in Africa, you cannot feed them, because if they do, they will eat themselves to death. It will literally kill them. And the same thing happens to your business. Your business will grow itself to death because it just can't handle all of the orders that are coming in. And so, you've got to be sure that operationally you can take on that growth, and that you have a game plan for when do we need to add what resources or what roles to make sure that we're handling the growth in a responsible way and can take on all of this growth. Because the longer a customer has to wait to make progress, the less likely they are to stay and the more likely they are to churn out.
Thank you. How can SaaS companies increase the revenue per customer?
So revenue per customer, you've got to make sure that you're helping them make progress. The reason why a lot of SaaS companies' revenue per customer is so low is because they are not aware of the progress. They're in love with their product. They're not in love with their customer. And so they're not understanding their customer. They're not helping them make progress. If the product breaks down, they blame it on the customer instead of taking responsibility and ownership of that. And so customers churn out. But if you want to create raving fans that have a larger lifetime value, you've got to make sure that you care about your customer over your product, and that you understand the outcome that they're trying to create, and that you find ways to help them do that. That's how you create an increased product revenue per customer. Now, if you want to increase profitability per customer, that's a different story, because profitability per customer, which is what we should really be focusing on, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of times people bank on this sort of economies of scale saving them, and will make up for this low margin customer with scale. Doesn't really happen. That's actually not a very common occurrence. It's why it's so notable. What you should be focused on is, again, those unit economics. Which of my customers are my most profitable? Because 20% of your customers generate 80% of your profits. 60% of your customers are break even, and 20% of your customers are unprofitable. And so you've got to understand who that 20% is that's driving 80% of your profitability. And when you focus on them and fire the customers that are unprofitable, you naturally increase the profit per customer.
Thank you. What are the top things SaaS companies fail to consider when trying to grow their company?
I think the first thing that they fail to consider is that their early adopters are not the same as their mainstream adopters. I think they fail to consider that early adopters are far more tolerant of the failures of your product or service, because the pain that they're experiencing in their life is so acute that they were out there actively looking, begging for a solution like yours. The mainstream customer is not going to be that way. They're just not. They're not going to be so tolerant of your failures. If your zipper is down or your booger is hanging out of your nose, they're going to call you on it, and they're going to turn around the other way and say, this guy thinks that he can help me out. Yeah, this guy's a chump. So you have to be very clear on the differences between those two audiences. I think another assumption that they make to their detriment is that they know why their customer is buying their product or service. The answer is often that they don't know. They've made a guess. They think it's an educated guess based off of the way that they've been selling. But the answer is often that the customer doesn't really care about how you're selling your stuff as much as they care about creating a specific outcome. And if you don't know what that outcome is, then you can't sell to them. And then the third critical assumption that they're making that is just flawed is that they know who their customers are, or who their competition is, that they know who their competition is, because they really don't. They really don't. Your customer actually positions you against different people all the time. I'll give you an example. Snickers bars, in the mind of the customer, are not positioned against Milky Ways or brownies or anything like that. Snickers bars are often positioned against protein bars. They are positioned against a bag of chips. So if I were Snickers and doing their marketing, the traditional marketing model would say, well, you need to market them against Milky Way. Well, that's not what the research finds. The research finds that when you market them against protein bars and potato chips, other quick snacks that help you sort of bridge the gap between one meal and the next, you can grow a lot. Snickers did this with their Snickers Satisfies ad campaign. They added $200 million in sales because of that one campaign and the understanding that I'm not positioning myself against Milky Way as sort of this indulgent dessert. I'm positioning myself against protein bars, peanuts, carrot chips, all of these different sort of snacks to bridge the gap between meals. And those are sort of these critical assumptions that a lot of these early stage SaaS companies and businesses are making, is that they know who their customer is, they know why they're buying, and they know who their competition is. And often when we get into the data, we find that they're actually wrong and that they're hurting their business. They're actively hurting their business, tripping over dollars to make dimes, like millions of dollars are being lost because they don't know who their customer is. They don't understand why they're buying. They think that they're competing with one person or in one market when they're really not. I apologize for the directness of the language, listener, but I'm sure you're a very smart person. This is just one thing that you've overlooked.
Thank you. And what's your message to SaaS companies worldwide?
Fall in love with your customer, not your product. Your customer is going to give you all the answers that you need to take your business from 1 to 10. But unless you are asking them and listening to what they have to say and asking the right questions, that's a big one, then you're going to fall flat on your face. And the world would miss out on having your product or service in it, which is a sad thing.
Thank you so much for so many nuggets that entrepreneurs will be able to use. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.